Welcome to Bat Therapy, psychology of Batman, superheroes, and other comic book characters. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We are your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Emilia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources. Yay! I'm excited for this one.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad because it's definitely one of my favorite episodes, pairs of episodes of Justice League. So I absolutely loved Justice League and Justice League Unlimited when it came out and came on Cartoon Network because it falls in the DCAU, so it's canon right along with Batman the Animated Series, Superman the Animated Series, and so it just follows right in line with it. And it was in season 2, so it's episodes I think it's episodes 43 and 44 of Justice League overall, but it's in the second season. And I really like it. I really like it because I don't know. I feel I always love when Grodd is in an episode because it's one of those things where I love the Flash Rose Gallery because they basically said, okay, he can't just fight fast people. What else do we got? And I imagine that there was just a team. And I know it was probably just one person, but in my mind, there was a team of people and somebody was just like, psychic gorilla. And everybody was like snapping their fingers like, yes, that's exactly what we need. We need a psychic gorilla. Make it happen. This is going to be big. And so anytime Grodd shows up, he's so sophisticated and snobby, and it's always so much fun.
Yeah. So what I like about these episodes, so Secret Society, is that we're still talking about heroes in training, but we're talking about it from a totally different angle. And so that's one of the things I'm most excited about talking about today is the fact that we have all of these solidified heroes who are all like expert superheroes, right? You know, you got your big names all coming together and they're essentially I forget, I think it was Jean and Green Lantern maybe, but there were
Jean
some
and
of them.
Jean.
Oh yeah, there you go. The
Yeah.
Jeans, yeah. They essentially were like, "Hey, we're not working as a team very well here. Like 2 plus 2 is supposed to equal 5 or 6, and it's kind of equaling 3 right now." So, so it's essentially like, "Hey, how do we train to work together instead of as individuals?" And I just love that concept in these episodes.
Yeah, it's really good because it, it it gives you a dynamic of the Justice League that you don't normally see, and
Mm.
that's realizing that yes, everything isn't all sunshine and rainbows between the Justice League because they kick ass and take names all the time, and they deal with very real issues, but a lot of the times it's not with each other.
Yeah.
It's not with each other, and it's just funny because I love seeing Superman literally have his complex. Like
Yep. Oh yeah.
it's so good seeing it. Like just him taking the lead. Like no, I'm gonna do it because I'm the one that's invulnerable. You all can get hurt, and everyone's like, "What? We're part of the team too." And Michael Rosenbaum Flash is always just hysterical and fun. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is really great. I mean, Batman is his usual self. He's never going to be a super big team player. He's always like, "Hey, when do we need our hard hitter to come in and help?" kind of guy. But people actually you get to see the frustration with that in a way that I don't think really gets shown in other eh, kind of episodes and stuff. And then yeah, I love how they show kind of the Superman super complex that he's got. They kind of show
Yeah.
little inklings of that, and you also get to see, I think too, the other superheroes responding to him,
Yeah.
and how that must feel when you got Superman as part of your team. But yeah, it's so interesting because you have all these different characters who they go off, they do their own thing, they do it very capably, but they have to come together
Yes.
and they have to figure out a way to do it, particularly because all the bad guys are coming together, and ironically they're all getting along super well in these episodes,
And
for the most part
yes.
anyway.
Yes, they are. And it's because their motive isn't money. That
Yeah,
was one thing that I really liked. Like Giganta was there because she loved Grodd. Parasite, he hates Superman. Um, Clayface wants to be, he just wants to be normal, and Grodd says he can fix him. Sinestro can't stand Green Lantern. And Killer Frost, she's just there because she loves killing people.
I know. It was
Um,
like she just was like, hey, wherever we go I can just kill people while we do this.
yeah, and
That
then
was pretty
Shade,
intense.
yeah, and then they bring in the
Mm,
Shade. He's just kind of there, just kind of doing his own thing, and Grodd basically has to convince him to join him. Like, hey, um, you should help us defeat the Justice League, and basically he talks him into it because he's like, when you're older, you're gonna want Social Security, not Superman running after you.
which is fair.
Right?
It's very
It's
fair.
it's
Well,
yeah.
and yeah, it's definitely so interesting. I love how they kind of I love how they turn on its head this idea that if you don't really like the laws of the land, then you, there's this assumption that, oh, you just don't play well with others. And I love you being able to see that actually they're able to come together as a team much more cleanly, because okay, yeah, they break the law all the time, but they have these other things in common that tie them together, and that stuff still having that common value system, and be they essentially fill each other's gaps a lot better. And they kind of, actually, I think one of the things from the get-go that you see is Grodd is a much more easier leader for them. They don't mind him
Hmm.
pulling everybody together and doing the larger mastermindy stuff. They like doing their smaller parts versus
Yeah.
in Justice League. Seems like there's a little bit more tension about, hey, who gets to step out in front here.
Yeah, and and a lot of it is because of their motive. And unfortunately,
Mm,
we see it in the real world all the time. I mean, look at Congress, some of the things that
mm,
they're passing these days because one, they're working as a team to do
yeah.
horrible things, right? And so it is something I thought about while watching this. It's like, oh, like, look at all these supervillains coming together and working so well as a team. And then
I know.
and it
I
was one of those
know.
laughs that turned into a sad cry. Like, oh no, this is what's happening in DC. I hate everything.
Well, and so okay, so one of, actually this might relate too. One of the interesting things, so I did a little bit of a dive because it's been a long time since I've looked at like team related psychology stuff. And so there's an area of psychology called IO psychology, industrial and organization psychology. And it's
Okay.
essentially the psychology of the workplace and kind of how I work to help a person be able to maneuver the world as best they can. They help companies and organizations be able, and businesses be able to do kind of the same thing. And so I was reading up about some stuff, and one of the things that was coming up was um, what they were calling like authority differentiation and skill differentiation. And so what's the leadership hierarchy look like or not look like? Is there a clear hierarchy where there's someone in charge versus is it more more everybody's about on equal level? And also, do you have a team where everybody does very different things, or is it kind of like everybody is coming in with the same skill set? And I feel like and there's not like right or wrongs, but it's different things are going to be helpful based on what those look like. And so what
Right.
was interesting is, so you've got these villains, and they had more of a clear authority, and they also seemed to kind of have more of the skill differentiation. So they had more of the, you do this and you do that, and all this stuff combines together, versus the Justice League. People were trying to be in charge, but then people weren't really loving it. And then it took a while for them to use their powers together. It was almost like we're all superheroes doing
Yes.
the superhero thing, versus, hey, use the speed guy for this, and the woman with the, not mallet, but
The
what do you
mace.
call it? Mace. Thank
Yes.
you.
Hawk Girl.
Mallet. I was yeah, I was thinking Harley Quinn there for a
Gavel.
second there. But where does the mace go? Where does the lasso of truth go? Right? I feel like they weren't appreciating their differences. They were just like, I'm a superhero and I'm a superhero, and you're getting in my way because I'm doing the superhero thing. And they had to work on that a lot more.
They were all such jerks to each other. Like
Yeah.
it was weird to see because I was like, oh, I don't like them very much right now. Like
Yeah.
Superman was a little bit of a jerk these episodes. He really was. And like and it's one of those things he means well, but it's like, dude, chill. Like you're just hurting feelings now.
It was interesting. You usually don't see that side of him,
Yeah,
of
you don't.
of I am very different from you all, and therefore. And so yeah, that was very interesting when that came out.
Yeah. I think the one that really did it was when I think they're fighting a bunch of cyborgs and he tells everybody to get down
Mm.
and he just uses his heat vision and Hawkgirl doesn't get down fast enough and he hits her with his heat vision. And she's like, "Whoa." And he goes, "I said get down." I'm like, "Whoa." Getting
Okay.
a little bit of Injustice Superman in there, aren't you? Wrong
Hey.
universe, bro.
But that's the thing, though. So, okay. So you do find out later, because don't forget, Grodd, he wasn't creating these animosities, but he kind of was, he was catching on to things going on,
Like
and he
little
was
things.
he was catching on to the little things, and he used his mental powers to just uh, make some tweaks where those things irritated a little bit more, and they weren't able to manage themselves as good. So that kind of helps make sense. But in general, it's, yeah, they have all these tensions and they don't deal with them as a team. So then everyone starts becoming essentially more and more childish. They're not really managing themselves very well. And then you see kind of these extremes about themselves coming out because they're not dealing with their stuff.
And it can be the smallest thing. It can be like a
Mm-hmm.
tiny pet peeve. I remember there was one day I had a rock in my shoe and I was just super busy and I would not just stop to get this rock out of my shoe. And it gave me hell all day because I was on the bus and I'm like, I'm not going to take my shoe off on the bus. Then I was at the mall and I'm like, I'm not going to take my shoe. And like, it was just bugging me
Yep.
all day. I get
Mm-hmm.
home, I take my shoe off and you can barely see this
Yeah.
tiny, tiny rock that's in my shoe. And it had been just driving me nuts
Yeah.
all day. The smallest thing in the world,
Yep.
the smallest thing. And so it's like and we see it all the time. Pet peeves.
Mm-hmm.
Pet peeves that you see someone do and it just like annoys you and you don't mention it to them. And then finally one day when you're having a bad day,
Yep.
that pet peeve becomes the worst thing in the world.
Yes. So essentially, Grodd is creating this, you're not having a good day, because he knows, yeah, he knows that rock is in everybody's shoe.
Yeah.
And he's like, ooh, I see what's going on here, and you guys aren't dealing with it. So
Yeah.
let's turn the volume up to 11 here. And I think that's a really great example. And sometimes you can remove the rock, other times you can't.
Right.
So there are certain things that okay, you've got the team, right? And okay, there are certain ways you can communicate. Hey, Superman, if you end up hitting someone with your heat vision, I think the communication or the timing of something was off, probably, right? So let's
Right.
work on that. Um, but there are also things to you just kind of have to accept, like Flash. He's always probably going to be super high energy and zipping around, and you're not going to change that. It's part of who he is. It's actually why he's a superhero.
Right.
So there are certain things that can be adjusted and changed, and hey, get the rock out of the shoe. And then other times it's, oh man, uh okay, the situation is what it is and I'm not loving it, but how do we figure out how to work together even though sometimes we're going to clash?
Right. Right. And it's funny because John Stewart comes in and he's very military about it. This is what we're
Yeah.
going to do. You're not working as a team, and
Mhm.
that does not play well off of everyone. And Hawk Girl even mentions it. She's like, when you're treating us like soldiers, that's not working for me because it seems
Yeah.
like you just don't care. We're just pegs in a system that you just made. And it's funny because you think about like how uh tough love doesn't work on everybody,
Mm.
right? Like tough
Mhm.
love makes some people completely shut down, and some
Yep.
people are like, okay, that's exactly what I needed, this kick in the butt. And that's what it made me think about because yeah, you have these seven members, and all of them have very different backgrounds. One,
True.
they all protect their own separate cities,
Mhm.
and now they're being forced to possibly have a side role, whereas they're normally the one,
Yep.
all seven of them kick down doors.
Mhm.
And now it's like, oh, so he's kicking down the door and I'm back here. And it just kind of rubs you the wrong way. It's like if
Mhm.
someone put five managers into a room
Yep.
and it's like, okay, they're all managers. They all have that same skill set where they take charge and tell people
Mhm.
what to do, right? And now all of a sudden, all five of them have the same skill set. And it's like, well, who's going to
Yeah.
be the manager of managers? And that's what happened in this episode.
Yeah. Now, and this might be why Superman is particularly special this episode. Imagine your most of your life you have been the absolute fastest, the absolute strongest, the absolute everything. You are always stronger, faster. You can fly, you can shoot things out of your eyes, you can breathe,
Yeah.
freeze, all this stuff. And then you're supposed to not always be the one acting all of a sudden.
Yes. Yes.
He's the extreme of this. He
Yes.
is the extreme of always being the one doing everything because he has the capabilities. And then you put him on this team and it's got to be so confusing because to him it probably seems to him like he's tying at least one hand behind his back
Yes.
in order for there to be more success than he could do on his own. But that must be such a confusing
Hmm.
thing for your mind to take in when you work at such an extreme level like he does.
And they definitely, I'm not gonna lie, I watched these episodes a few times because I kept digging and nitpicking it. They definitely depowered Superman in this episode. He's so
Mm.
much stronger. Like Giganta could not have laid a finger
I did notice that
on
he seemed to be
Superman.
kind
Like
of taken down by a few of the villains where you're like,
with no kryptonite. There was no
yep,
kryptonite in these episodes either. And that's what's funny. It's like, yeah, Superman was definitely holding back, which is something he's admitted to doing. It's
yeah,
one of the last episodes of Justice League. He's fighting Darkseid. He gives this really cool speech about how he always feels like he's walking on eggshells on this
mm-hmm,
planet because he doesn't want to do too far. And then he cracks his knuckles because he's like, but you can handle it. This is one of those rare times I actually get to cut loose, and he's so excited.
Oh, I remember that
uh,
episode. I gotta rewatch that now. Oh,
yeah,
that's such a good scene.
but
Yeah, and
yeah,
that's the thing. He has to hold back. He has to hold back in so many ways, and he's not the only superhero that I know you've talked about other ones where that can be the case, but yeah, he has to hold back for in so many ways, and still he's always on top. It's but it working with a team is very interesting, and it takes a different set of skills a lot of them aren't used to. And it makes sense that John says, let's go the military route. Okay, because hey, where else do you have this clear structure? You do this job, you do this job, here's your hierarchy, here's who tells you to do what. It makes sense that someone would try to implant that hierarchy onto this team. But have you don't have soldiers.
I was completely bothered by it. First off, because you're Green Lantern. Like, okay, like this is
But
the
he's in
full
the
Justice League.
but
And
he's in the Green Lantern Corps.
yes,
So it makes
you're right.
sense to me though, because they are all about a team, and you yes, you're all kind of working, yes, you're all working in these separate areas, but you come together, you're a core, you're together, you have this driven purpose and everything. It makes sense that he would be someone that would pull for that. But this is not, people didn't sign up for the
Right.
military or weren't drafted into it or whatever. This is very different. This is a bunch of people with very independent ideas who many of them are very quick to say, I'm out of here.
And I love, yeah, Batman immediately is just like, this is a waste of time. And honestly, in my mind, for him,
Yeah.
it might actually be because we know how much Batman thinks through everything.
Yeah.
He is not the person that runs in guns blazing. He saw right through fake Clayface Flash. Like
Mhm.
he's a master tactician. And so
Yeah.
it was really funny watching Green Lantern take the lead on this. And I'm like, I know Batman doesn't want to do it, but if we're being completely honest,
Well, so here's the thing too though. So Batman is the master tactician, and it makes sense in some ways. Also, we're biased toward him, but
he's the
it
best.
because he is so great.
Yeah, but
So
whatever.
it makes sense that he doesn't need the tactical piece. He needs help with the interpersonal
Definitely.
components. And the thing with Batman is he keeps everybody on their toes and uncomfortable, and that works really well for the other side, but for your side it means people are going to question you.
That's true.
So he didn't need to be there to learn those things, but he needed to be there so other people could have solidarity with him. And
Yeah.
so that, which is also the reason he should never be in charge.
It's
So
like a
I think,
team building exercise, like how the villains were doing trust falls.
yeah, can you imagine trust falling toward Batman? Oh no.
I he
He's
might
the
be
dude
the only one
that
I
disappears.
trust.
He's the one that disappears on you in a blink of an eye. He's
Yeah,
just
but
gonna be gone.
in my mind, I'm excited because I'm like, what if he had to leave and I fall back on the Batmobile? That'd be so cool. It would probably be painful, but at the same time, like, yeah, it's
Here's the thing: if you did a trust fall with Batman and you just fell all the way down, you'd think to yourself, "Yeah, there was a 50-50 chance that was gonna happen."
yeah. But at the same time, yes, we know Batman works well with his family. He
Well, yeah,
works
because
well
he's in charge. He
with the
tells them what to
Batman
do.
That's true. That's true. And a lot of them are like, you know what? I'm going to go to a new city. Dick Grayson dipped. He's like, I'm
And he
going to
said, "Okay."
Bloodhaven, the only city that might be worse than Gotham.
Bruce Wayne's rule is: if you work with me, accept the fact that I am in charge.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And if he worked better as a team, imagine if he said, "Hey, Superman, will you come to Gotham and help me real quick?" He could have Gotham clean in a couple hours, if that. If that. Penguin would be at the table dealing cards, and then he would be in Arkham and not know how he even got there. Like he would like he could do it in a couple of hours. And same thing, Superman, if he was just like, "Hey, Batman, will you work with me in Metropolis?" And Batman would be like, "Yeah, because guess what? Kryptonite doesn't do jack squat to
Yeah.
me." Like
Also, Lex Luthor. let's go brain to
Let's
brain.
go brain
Let's
to
do
brain.
this. Yeah.
This is gonna be an excellent chess match to watch because you have all this kryptonite and nothing to do with it, don't you?
That's actually something though. What you're bringing up is something that really struck me in these episodes too. Is it was so funny to me how much sometimes things got switched up, but how many times the pairing up happened where it was the normal villain with the normal
Yeah. Oh
hero,
gosh,
which
it
was
happens
so
so many
funny.
times.
You're because that's what everybody's used to. They go
Hmm.
after the one that they always go after. But this is where the team comes into play. So what better thing to do than to say, "Hey, this isn't my villain and
They're your
that's your
strengths.
villain. This is not my hero, your hero. Let's let's change this up."
Yeah.
Like you were saying, let's switch it up.
Yeah.
And that's where you set people back and you're reworking the entire
And
you're reworking the entire superhero villain fight
yes.
at that point. But yeah, they kept falling into their same patterns.
And I'm not gonna lie. At the end, I would have liked to see them like plan and strategize a little bit more. Like
I
that last battle.
wholeheartedly
Like I
agree.
was really thinking they were building towards like a chess match where it's
Yep,
like,
me too.
oh, this is what we're gonna do. But in the end, it ended up just being like a brawl, and it worked out in their favor
Yep.
this time. And I would have really have liked to seen some a more tactile
Yep.
method. But I was laughing at what you said because so many times like Green Lantern ended up fighting Sinestro,
Yes.
and Grodd ended up fighting Flash, and everybody matched up with
Mhm.
who they normally would. And I'm like, dude, you've never played Pokemon before. You gotta fight a different type against this one. Like, what are we
Yes.
doing?
Exactly. Yeah, that really bugged me. And I don't know how much of that was a flaw in the writing versus perhaps maybe wanting to continue playing off of these ripples and these issues going on, because it's also probably not that realistic that you snap your fingers and it's all solved within an episode either. There's
Yeah.
a lot of stuff underlying all of this, and they're just so used to working on their own, most of them.
Yes. I feel like this could have been a 3-part episode. I really would have liked for
Yeah.
them to have dug into the teamwork aspect
Yes.
a bit more. But another thing that I liked is right before the big showdown, they're all around and they're like, well, we have to work together.
Ah.
And we'll deal with how we're feeling about each other after the fact. And there are times when that happens, when it's like, okay, yeah, this is bad, and our relationship is not the coolest right now, but we have
Mhm.
something that we have to deal with, that we have to table this
Yep.
and then get through it. And it was just funny because Flash is like the kid in the Justice League. He's really kiddish because he's like, all right, cool, so we're back together now, right? And everyone else is like,
I know, poor Flesh.
"Mm."
So, and here's I think where it comes into play, to what you were referring to with Batman. So, Batman's going in, and he's going in alone, seemingly, and
Right.
he's figuring out all the stuff for all the villains, and then the villains think they have him, but he's brought the team, and so that is something that, and that's a theme with him. So it felt absolutely in place. Batman 2 is one of those characters that seems like he works on his own, and he uses that as part of his tactical prowess of, they are going to assume that I would
Hmm.
not bring in any support here.
Loved
And
it. It
and
was
so
such a
he
good moment.
so that's what he does. But for him, I think the irony though is Batman doesn't have to give up any pride, because his
Yeah.
pride is in his tactical prowess. And so
Yeah.
if I bring people in, it's a tactical advantage. And
Yes.
therefore I'm still the best.
Yes. And I also love that even though the secret society, they had the Justice League dead to rights,
Yeah,
they
true.
still had their flaws. Because in my mind, I'm like, if Gorilla Grodd, if they had, if we looked at this secret society
Mm.
and we swapped out Gorilla Grodd for like Ozymandias from Watchmen, Justice League
Mm.
is dead. They're dead because they're like, sweet, let's finish the job, and he's like, not in a warehouse. It's like
Oh
what?
yeah, that was
Like what?
annoying.
Like yeah, he was. Grodd is so into himself, and it's funny because he's a psychic gorilla, and it's just normally the person that's like that is like that villain that's just super good looking and just like I'm smarter and better than everyone. It's funny coming from a gorilla. It is.
I mean, he might be a very attractive gorilla. I don't really know what to look for in
Well, they
that
showed
whole thing.
Giganta before, and I guess he changed Giganta from a gorilla into a
Oh,
very large woman, which I
I
don't
thought that
feel
was
like is the original origin for her.
I assumed that was a lie he made up to convince Clayface that he could fix him.
Oh, I didn't think about that. I just thought they went completely off script.
I mean, both either one could be
Because
true.
Giganta's normally a Wonder Woman villain.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And so yeah, I mean it's a weird backstory or it's a weird lie. One, one or the other.
yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was to convince poor Clayface, who by the way was just trapped in multiple barrels on some like rich dude's
Morgan
island. That
Edge.
was
Morgan Edge, a
awful.
Superman. Morgan Edge, a Superman villain. He just
Oh, that is who that was, wasn't it? I
yeah,
forgot
he
that's who that
just
was.
yeah, he and it's funny because I was looking at backstory for the episode and they said they did that because of how celebrities in real life will just collect weird things because they have the money to. And
Oh, they went
so
dark with it.
yeah, and so yeah, I remember the first time I watched that episode, my mind was blown when they opened
Yeah.
those containers and it was Clayface because I'm like, oh okay, it's some kind of poison and they're gonna ransom Gotham or whatever.
I thought it was kryptonite.
And then they opened, I was like, oh snap! I was
And
really
I mean, the
excited.
poor guy, it's like,
I
of
feel
course
bad for Clayface.
I know. It's so
I feel
sad.
bad because even Batman says like you're so predictable because you want to fix yourself. And I'm like Batman, help him. can, you,
Okay, you know how
can
we
you
said that
please
Tim
help him?
do you know how in our Tim Drake episode we said that he would be the Robin most likely to become a therapist when he retired?
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne does not have it in him.
No,
I think that
nowhere
proves
close.
it.
Nowhere close. He's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, you want to fix yourself, don't you? Makes you predictable. Batarang to the face. Like it's like
Oh, poor
like yeah, I'm like,
Clayface.
can we please just help Clayface? Like we
I
clearly see
know.
he just wants to be an actor again.
It was
Like,
very sad.
can you help him?
And also, why wouldn't people want him to be an actor? I feel like he could do a lot of really cool things.
He
Yeah,
could.
let's get on this.
I think
Rehab
the
for Clayface. I'm on
and they
board.
do it in the comics. In the
That's
comics,
true. That is
it's
true.
great because his run in DC Rebirth in
Yeah.
Detective Comics, we could do a Heroes in Training episode about him because
Yeah.
I love what they did with Clayface in DC Rebirth. It was so good seeing him come around and Batman
Mhm.
giving him a chance, but more on that later. In this show,
In the show,
they wrap
Batman
him up
does
in
yeah.
fireworks and shoot him into the sky. And what's weird is that's the last time we ever see him in the DC animated universe. So
Wait, really?
yes, that's his last appearance in that particular in the DC animated universe. And so might have committed
Whoops.
murder, but whatever.
I was actually just reading this is off the subject, but the what is it called? The other the other history of the DC universe or something.
Hmm.
It's got like storylines for side characters.
Yes.
And one of them essentially, I think it's Katana, and she just riffs on Batman and oh yeah, this guy doesn't murder. I bet there are bodies buried all over Gotham. We just don't talk about it so he can be a hero. And I was like, "Oh, that's probably really, really true.
I just when you said Katana immediately, her introduction in the first Suicide Squad movie just popped into my head. It was first,
I don't remember it.
that movie was so bad, but Rick Flag basically is on he's on the helicopter and then out of nowhere Katana gets on the helicopter and he just goes, "This is Katana. Her sword traps its souls in the souls of its victims. She's got my back." We don't hear anything else about her.
Oh, jeez.
That was it. That was it. But yeah, oh my gosh, so much to talk about. But yeah, I really love the Secret Society episodes because Grodd is always just trying to manipulate. Because even
Yeah.
when at the end, when he's running away, he's like, "Superman, me and you, we could run the world, man."
Mm.
And Superman's like, "Dude, this isn't that's not my thing. It's not gonna work." But he was like, "Had to try." Psychic Gorilla had to try.
Now, if Grodd and turned superhero, him and Batman teaming up would be really interesting. I think if they could end up on the same side for something, that would be an interesting pairing.
Yes, yes, it's because he's normally in Central City. He's normally a
Right.
Flash
Yep.
villain, and so yeah, I think that would be an interesting pairing, because there's a lot of different Grodd storylines out there, but I mean, it's funny because you would think with his backstory he would just want to be free, but
Mm,
he's like, "Nah, I'm scheming, I'm scheming."
yeah.
And then later on, I think in the next incarnation of the Injustice League in the show, Lex Luthor comes back and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
retakes everything.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I really liked this episode, or episodes, I should say. Um, I think it did a really great job of also showing you snippets of the different characters' personalities, both on the superhero side and the villain side. I thought it did a really cool job with that. And yeah, the little rock in the shoe. The little rock is in the shoe for all of the superheroes that whole time. And I agree with you that it shows a different side. It shows kind of the underbelly of things they're not dealing with. And I love those episodes the most. The ones like this one, or later on when there's more superheroes involved with the Justice League and whatnot.
Hmm.
Batman and some others start kind of questioning this. Hey, how much can we make these decisions on our own?
Yeah,
So in the beginning, there's this: how do we make this work together? Is this even worth our time?
right.
Should we come together? We're so powerful separately. Also, how much time can they really commit to it? You almost want your second tier superheroes in some veins, because they might have more time and attention they can put into it.
Yeah.
They're going to be more willing to work as a team
Hmm.
because they're more aware of and used to working around weak points.
And they're not on
um
that God level that
they're not on the
the
god
big
level.
the big
Yeah.
seven are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like when they start bringing in those others, because I feel like it makes it more of a league and a team. But then the ones on more the god level, it really creates this kind of question of should we be doing this? Okay, we found a way to do it. Now is this like ethical for us?
Right. Oh
So
yeah.
I love those episodes that really really look at the underbelly.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are definitely good. And I would, yeah, I think we have all the time in the world for this podcast. So I will
Oh
definitely
yeah,
be revisiting the DC animated universe some more, I think.
absolutely. Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Emilia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JVS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/battherapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.